Hello, everyone. This is such an exciting moment. I've always thought, gosh, it's so exciting for the creator when they have a big following and not so much for the followers. But then I thought, it's good for everybody because then the creator can hopefully focus more on what they can offer the people watching their things, and everybody just wins. Everybody gets more when we're all succeeding together. So I'm just really happy that 10,000 of you are with me here on YouTube. I think that's just insane, and a goal that I thought was so far away, and it's here, and it's cool. It's cool. And everybody says consistency is key, and boy, I had to learn that lesson, and it's very, very true. So we're going to do a lot today. The paint along, everything's at paint333.com. All the supplies and goodies that I'm using. For the paint along itself, I am painting on a full-size sheet of Fabriano cold press, 300 pound. And so I'm painting very, very big. But the beauty of this dog, especially I think, is that you don't have to, you can paint whatever size you want. It's a really cool reference photo. And I'm also not painting the party hat, but paint the party hat if you want to. I think it's just really fun. So this paint along reference photo came from a previous client. I painted her cat twice, and this dog is her dog Comanche, and I painted him once as commissions. And so she's just a friend. She really, really loved this dog. I mean, it was her soul dog, those kind of companions that just change your life. And I saw this picture on her Instagram, and I'm like, can I paint him again? And she's like, of course. So we're gonna have a lot of fun painting him today. You might be wondering why I'm opening a huge Christmas box, because it's a good day to celebrate, and I wanted to see what's in here and add some of these things to our giveaway today. So this is also what we're going over today, the calendar, and I'm going to be kind of going over this box in more detail on the meet-in video, and I think it's on the 19th. So I'm going to pull up the calendar right now. We can kind of talk about that for a hot second before we get started. So if you're a subscriber, you already got this in your inbox this morning, about an hour ago. You guys are also sweet. You're just blowing up the chat with excitement for me. That's amazing. Thank you. But anyway, on the 19th, we're going to have a video covering this in more detail. So let's see what's in here very quickly. I don't want to make the whole video about this, but boy, this is ginormous. Oh my gosh. I might have to do this on a different day because it has almost like an advent calendar where you can open. Okay. Well, this is absolutely adorable. Maybe I just give away one of these little inserts. Wait, okay, so there's two. So there's like a big one and a small one. I'm going to have to do this on a different video, I think. But I'll find something. If not like a whole box in here, then part of it to add to the giveaways. So I want to do, for sure, 2 things of giveaways for today. So I have this tube of Hematite Genuine, which is a lot like Lunar Black. It's very granulating. It's dark. It's a dark gray granulating color. Absolutely gorgeous. And then I have 2 of these really pretty iridescent things from Jacquard, Pearl X powdered pigments. And we also have a glitter and shine video coming up in November too, where I will go over those in a more review style fashion. So to be entered into the giveaways, whatever they may end up being today, please just leave a comment on this video. Chats are great too, but I think I'm going to pick it from the comments. So if you want to just, I don't know, you could, obviously you can comment anything, but it could be fun to let me know something specific. I don't know, maybe why you love watercolor could be a fun thing to talk about. I'd love to hear what watercolor is that's drawing you in. What about it that you love? So just drop a comment. It can be any comment though, and I will pick 2 random commenters 24 hours from right now. So even if you're not catching this live, you can still leave a comment within the first 24 hours to be eligible for that giveaway. And I have a lot of things going out in the mail this week. I'm doing all our member packets and the previous giveaways. So this week is a big week for mailing out goodies. So it's a great time to get in on the fun giveaways. So this is our calendar. I don't think I need to talk about it too much. It's pretty self-explanatory. We have a lot of paint-a-logs for the members. So all the member-only videos are in pink. And then every other video that's not in pink is going to be for everybody. So we have a couple paint-alongs for everybody, including today. And then we have a couple fun other things like the meet-in demo and the giveaway, hummingbird paint-along, a butterfly paint-along, and then some cool technique videos. So there's always something for non-members too, and it's just going to be a lot of fun, including today. This is for everybody, so this is really, really exciting. So I'm going to see now, change it over to our reference photo, and we'll get started. I'm going to do this kind of in a, let's see, I did a calendar. Okay, and if you don't have the reference photo or the tracing, it's all at aquilawatercolor.com/resources. It is right there available for you to download. So don't fret, it's there. You can go for it. Okay, I also wanted to talk about, and we can kind of talk about this as we're painting. So I will get to that as we get started. I had some brushes I never cleaned off. So we're gonna start with the eyes like always. And I'm kind of hoping to do this in a more of a fast style painting. This is so fun. You all are so excited. This is crazy. This is great. Okay, I made myself a little smaller here. You don't need me as much as you need this reference photo information. There we go. So I'm going to see if I can just kind of paint this kind of fast. The eyes and the nose, those are going to be the features I focus on. And so those will always take a little bit more time on, because those are really important little details. And I didn't really refine the drawing yet, but it's not a commission. There's no stress. I mean, there's no stress with commissions either, but I get a little bit more flexibility when I get to paint things that aren't commissions and just kind of play around and have a little bit more fun and experiment more, I would say would be the good term for that. A little bit more experimenting. So I'm going to go in right away with my neutral tint and do some black outlines on both eyes. And then we'll come in and do some other layers as we go. And then we're going to move on to the nose and do the same thing. So I'm just kind of trying to rehydrate this. I'm going to use my silver black velvet brush because it comes to a nice fine point. Too messy of a craft room. Oh, do you think it beats how messy my studio is? That's okay. I'm not too worried about it. Oh man, I really didn't add a lot of information here. We're going to go for it. We're just kind of going for it. All right, and I want to have a blotting only brush handy too here as we paint and move around. Our water only brush. I think I said blotting only brush. But that's what it's for blotting and moving water around. So I'm just kind of doing right onto the dry paper some nice heavy mixes of this neutral tint. And I have a brush just for water, my round brush. And I can carry that into the upper eyelid shape, that nice dark neutral tint that we laid down. I got kind of a funky shape going on here, but that's kind of my fault for making this. That looks a little bit better. I'm going to have my grainer brush handy too. And if anybody has any questions for the calendar or anything else that we kind of are talking about, you can drop it in the chat. I just fanned that out and I'm going to go ahead and add some color. So purple, we will definitely be employing purple in this painting. And I'm also not going to be too afraid of a rainbow because it's a happy birthday, happy celebration type painting. So I'm not really limiting my palette too much. I'm just going to kind of have fun. We're going to see live what happens when you don't plan your paintings very well and just let go and kind of have fun. And I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. All right, I'm just pulling that purple into some of those pretty shapes that I made. I think I need to extend this maybe even a little bit more. And maybe get some reflective area happening down here too. With a little bit of purple. Bring that around. That looks cool. And then I'm going to come in. Thank you, everybody. This is so fun. This is so fun. I'm having fun. We're all having fun. Okay, not a ton of black in here. It's a very reflective eye. There's a lot of reflections in here, so it's a lot of blue. But I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of a chunky black shape in there. And why don't we just come in with blue right away? So ultramarine blue. Oh, you can't even see my palette. I apologize. I should bring this over a tint. There we go. So I've been using mostly neutral tint. My purple is ultramarine blue plus opera pink. And then there's probably some neutral tint in that purple too, but that's just fine. So now I'm going to come in with just ultramarine and dot this in here and let that kind of swirl around in the water we've already laid down. And I'm also going to kind of drop it in a little bit in the eye, but I really love in the eyes a good bit of cobalt teal. And you can make it really punchy by only putting cobalt teal in the eyes if you really want to just go for it. So I touched that black and blue mix, going all around that reflection. I'm even going to just touch the bottom of the eye here. And that'll look cool once that kind of just melds around. Putting a little bit more of that ultramarine in there. And I'm going to grab my water only brush and just dot in some water around here too. Because more fun things will happen if you do that. And I always like to have my scraping tool handy. And the cool thing is, for scraping, you can use anything. I know a very, very world-renowned artist that just uses his fingernail to scrape. Like every time I've seen his demos. He's just magnificent. And he just uses his fingernail. So the good news is you likely always have a scraping tool handy. But I'm just going to see if maybe I can get a couple of these lighter lines. And here we are using our scraping tool. It's a plastic fork. How cool is that? And look at that. We were successful right off the bat. Maybe the lesson of this painting will be just, who cares? Like, oh, do whatever you want to do. Doesn't even matter anymore. It is good. It is good to practice a little bit of speed and give yourself some, hey, what happens if I do that? What happens if I try this? It can be a lot of fun. So I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat here too. Your black, so Lisa says her black is more faded than my black. It could oftentimes be you just need more. You really need to scrub that color and get a lot of it on your brush. If you've done that, it could be the black paint. It could be the brand of paint. I am using neutral tint, but there are other blacks out there like lamp black, and there's, I don't know, the other names are failing me right now, but there's a lot of blacks and they should be black. And I often will go over my black a couple times where the values are super, super dark in a painting to get them super, super dark. So even because it always dries lighter too. So there's a lot of that going around. You gotta just keep putting paint on the piece of paper that you have. So I'm doing the same thing on this eye. I'm kind of getting a little bit of those black shapes that are inside the eye without going too crazy. And I'm going to get the outer shape of the eye in place as well. And then we can kind of really breathe easy. It's like once this little first layer on the eye is in place, I just feel usually a lot better about moving on with my painting, because eyes are really important. Even when we're doing kind of like a fast style painting like this, I'll always still take my time on the eyes. All right, I'm just dropping in more water again with our water only brush. Donna, I'm so glad you made it. That's so good. Cobalt teal and opera pink. Ooh, that does produce a really, really pretty purple. I don't use cobalt teal in purple mixes too often. And if I said cobalt teal in my purple just now, I apologize. My purple that I'm using today is ultramarine and opera pink. And sometimes I will do a purple with neutral tint and opera pink. No matter what, opera pink's in there, but the blue changes depending on what kind of purple I'm kind of going for. All right, let's drop in. Let's just, okay, we got to think about now with the dark side will be this side. And this reference photo is excellent because there's a clear light side, dark side over here. Why don't we just have fun? Let's put some cobalt teal for our shadow color, which is going to be a little, I don't know what our highlight color is yet. Probably going to be yellow. That would look cool. I'm not, like I said, I'm not too afraid of getting a rainbow here. So I'm dropping in some of that cobalt teal that we see in the eye as part of those blue reflections. And I also want to drop in some around the eye in that water we laid down. And then that can hang around and have fun. So Deborah is having the same problem as Lisa with her black being a little too muted. I am using American Journey neutral tint. Daniel Smith would also be a great choice. I love M. Graham. Well, I think that's just an excellent, excellent brand of paint, too. And, you know, I don't know. So maybe I'm wondering, too, like maybe old paint plays a part. If your paint's really old. But my first hunch is that you probably just really need to scrub it and get a huge, like a lot of that pigment on your brush for it to show up. All right, let's think about, I might smooth out this black here a little tiny bit. And I want to think about what else, where else I'm seeing black in the eye. And then I'm going to come in with my ultramarine and we can kind of fill out the rest of those. We have, let's see, we have a lot here, 1, 2, 3, and then we kind of have this one down here. And then we got quite a bit of blue kind of up here too. And that's a really good first layer for this eye, I would say. Maybe we could scrape a little bit too. We'll see. It's still pretty wet, so I didn't achieve the scraping like I did on this eye as much. And I am using Fabriano. That's a great question, Michelle. This is Fabriano. And I love Fabriano and Arches probably equally. Maybe, I don't know, Fabriano, it just has like a really good sale on 300-pound cold press right now on Blick, Dick Blick Art Supplies. If you're in the States, they might still have these 5-packs of 300-pound cold press Fabriano. And it was just such a good deal, I just loaded up. So I'm kind of going through that. But I'll use any good brand of 300-pound, either cold press or rough is typically what I like to do. And I didn't trim this down yet. It's not a commission, so it doesn't have to be 22 by 28. But I do have the flexibility to trim it down if I want to. And I like to trim things down to 22 by 28 because it's easier to frame here in the States. That's like a standard frame size. So that's typically why I'll do that. Oh, thank you. Image that's blurry and turn it into, yeah, this one is a little bit blurry, but the cool thing is we have the ability to see the features. Like you can clearly see the nostrils. So Michelle just mentioned like it's nice to be able to take an image that's a little bit blurry and turn it into a nice painting. And oftentimes you will have to do that if you're working with commissions and maybe the pet has passed, and or their favorite photo of that pet is blurry and you just don't have the luxury of getting a really nice photo. So I think the important part is that you can kind of see the features. And I even increased the contrast. I actually increased the contrast quite a bit for this photo, for this painting, and that'll really help you see those features that are kind of in the shadows. And it can kind of also erase some information that maybe you don't want. And it'll help you keep from maybe adding a little too much detail. It especially helps increase what you're seeing on the light side and the dark side, which is pretty cool. So I'm doing the exact same thing that we did with the eyes. I am painting these black shapes. So we're kind of just giving ourselves a nice little cheat sheet here of outlines. It's just such a fun way to paint, especially if you are kind of doing more maybe pen and ink style of painting, because you're kind of just doing it right away. And I'm going to come in with my water only brush pretty soon here. I love this brush too because you can just make these variegated thicknesses in the width of your brush. I just love that so much. So water only, and I'm going to go right next to the black lines that we painted. Right next to it, and they should kind of hang around and spread out a little bit. This is also, your black might behave very, very differently than mine. Even depending on the brand, even if you are using like neutral tint. I would say if you're using Core, they would behave very differently. The neutral tint that I'm used to, this is American Journey neutral tint, and it'll typically kind of stay where you put it, even if you put it in water or put water around it. So you can see it is spreading. So it's not completely just stagnant and staying where I put it. But for the most part, it behaves very well in terms of not going everywhere, even when you put water in it. And I really like that about neutral tint, because my other favorite black is Lunar Black by Daniel Smith, and it does not. That color will spread like there's just no tomorrow. Which also looks cool too. So each one has the properties that it brings to the painting that are good. They're just very different. But I love Lunar Black because it granulates. So it spreads, but it also granulates. I'm bringing some of this black down into the muzzle here. So just kind of touching the pool of paint that is in the nose and bringing it down into the muzzle with my flat brush. And now we have this opportunity to throw in some color into that pool of water. So I'm going to do purple and let that hang out. And I want to do my shadow color, my cobalt teal, and just see how that mixes in. And I want to have my grainer brush handy too here. And I can kind of manipulate some of that pretty pigment that we laid down before it dries. And I might go for a little pinkier version of my purple as we approach the light side of the painting. And that'll look really good too if we do pick yellow as our highlight color, because it'll just mix really well with a pinkier purple. So you can see in general, I'm just putting less on the highlight side of the nose. But I am putting a lot of water. I'm using a lot of water. I'm not being too shy about putting water on the nose here. What about if we add in a little bit of that ultramarine on the dark side too? Kind of putting it where darkest darks are on the dark side. The darkest darks on the dark side. Just a lot of darkness. This is so great. No active comments. Interesting. I wonder if you can't comment when it's live. Eva, that's a good, I don't know. Maybe you can't. If that's the case, let's just add the chat into the giveaway then. But you could always, I know you could comment once the live is over. So I'm not sure. Maybe you can't comment when you're actually live and you can only chat. It's really interesting. So I'm adding some water and I'm kind of pulling some of this color into the shapes that aren't the reflected area in the nose, so that we can kind of soften some of that white, the harshness of the white edges. And maybe I can get some color where there should be color, where there isn't necessarily a really hardy, reflective white area. And a little bit more cobalt. I don't know, I kind of see, when I look at this reference photo, I see cobalt in the nose, kind of right here. So I'm going to let that move around, putting a little more water there, so it kind of moves around. Look at that. Look at that purple that it does. That's a cool purple. I would say cobalt, not opera pink. You get a really cool purple. The purples you can achieve, even with this limited palette, are just so much fun. Okay, I need to soften this shape a little bit. And I kind of marked where the intense highlighted area is. So I want to make sure I keep some paper, even on the dark side, revealed, because we can always come in later. We sure can always come in later and add more color. But this is a fun time to do it because then the colors can mix and move around a little bit. I do really love that. I'm gonna grab some cobalt and put that in this part of the nose, just so we can see that there's light. There's some light coming into that nostril. Maybe do that on this side too. Ooh, pretty. The granulation that's happening, I think, is just really fun. All right, we have a nice pool to work with right now of color right here. So I'm going to just take my blotted grainer brush. There shouldn't be any color on this, just a little bit of water. And I'm going to kind of pick up from this pool and use it around other parts of the painting. So I'm just kind of borrowing pigment that's already on my paper here, and not letting it go to waste. Getting some of this fun texture. I want to get more of a pure opera pink color. So I'm going to wash off my purple brush and see if I can kind of get a nice pure opera pink. I don't know. I'm getting a lot of purple, but my palette is very messy, so I only have myself to blame. Okay. Oh, okay, good. Sandy's able to comment during the live. So yeah, it could, you know, we learned that the hard way when I opened up my membership, that even how much you pay per month, if you join on an Apple device, YouTube charges you the Apple fees, even though you can go in and do all the membership stuff on any device or browser. I was like, YouTube, don't be a jerk. So anyway, if you're thinking about joining the membership, don't do it on the app using an Apple device, because YouTube will give you the fees that Apple charges YouTube, will charge you those fees. So just do it on a browser, not in the app, and you should likely be fine. But we learned that one the hard way. I should say some of you did. I feel so bad. But it's just all a learning process. what the heck? But yeah, it could be your browser setting or kind of where you're viewing this or what you're viewing this on if you are unable to comment. So I appreciate you guys chiming in and helping me out with that. That's so nice. Try and figure out why some people aren't able to comment. So I'm still just manipulating the nose here with color and water, and you can see how I'm kind of lifting a little bit too. And I love to drop in water after I lift to further push the pigment out in cool ways. I was able to get some nice pure opera pink in the nose, and I think that looks really, really cool. And I'm going to do that and just drop in some of that more pink, especially on the highlight side, but a little bit over here too in the muzzle, and we can move that around. Can borrow that pigment. And I'm just going to paint with water a little bit on the dark side of the muzzle, kind of a thin layer of water. And it's just like, you know what, while we're here, let's just extend a little bit of this muzzle out and get a nice layer on that dark side of that muzzle. So I'm actually kind of painting the white of the muzzle, which is odd. A little bit. I usually don't paint, I don't want to put too much color where there shouldn't be a lot of color, and limit myself when it comes time to paint the dark part. All right, I'm picking up some purple with my grainer brush and dropping it in on the dark gray hairs and just adding a little bit of shading to this dark side. We're getting a little color resist because there's some almost dry areas. Oh, it looks so pretty. And I kind of painted with water, and I didn't paint the whole thing. I painted little blobs, little geometric shapes of it. And then that way, when you put down these grainer brush areas of color, you should be able to get both soft kind of edges and harder edges. And it'll just provide a little bit of dynamic look to the grainer brush edges that you're painting. And I'm kind of softening it here and there too. And I'm doing cobalt teal, so kind of a purple along with cobalt teal. And we're just having fun. Put a little opera pink in here, a little more opera pink. As this dries, maybe we can get some more color resist happening. That'd be kind of neat. Nicole, thank you. That is so nice. Oh, yes. Okay. Staffy, which I'm assuming is this. Is that a Staffordshire Terrier? Is that a pit bull? I think it is. I could be wrong. We had a pit bull growing up, and I know we had like an alternate name for it so that we wouldn't freak people out saying we had a pit bull. But yes, they have, I love a big smile on a dog like this. It's just the best. All right, I'm dropping in some more cobalt teal. Having some fun. Just having a lot of fun with this one. And when I try to get those lines of whiskers. So he's kind of got like 3 clear lines of whiskers extending into his snout. So I'm seeing if I can get those in there. There we go. Kind of getting there. And I want to catch this and do some fun stuff with that before it gets completely dry. So just picking up a lot of purple and a lot of cobalt. And I'm really concentrating the work that I'm doing towards the edges. We're kind of leaving that middle to just hang out and chill. We can come back and glaze that later too. So I'm going to see if I can get some cool scraping. Now, even though Comanche has black whiskers, whiskers can still catch the light in a cool way and be a little transparent. So I'm not opposed to scraping out whiskers, even if they're black. So we're getting a little bit, nothing too crazy. I'm getting a little scraping here, and it's revealing cobalt teal, like a stained cobalt teal look. That looks really cool. All right, more of a deeper purple mix in here. And putting a lot, that darker value towards the nose so that they kind of become more like one shape. The nose kind of bleeds into the muzzle a little bit here in a cool way. I don't want to lose that. So I'm dropping in a lot. I'm letting that really hang out and go to town. And I think the nose itself needs more of that color too. And maybe we can add in a little bit more water so that that purple can blend in a nicer way. I don't know, maybe I put in too much purple. It is the light side of the nose. I'm going to lift out a little bit of that. Okay, add in some more water and let that just blend around, get pretty. Okay, we could, you know, I don't know. I don't think I want to. I have a blotted, talking to myself here, just blotted, no color on this brush. And I'm just going to kind of suggest the fluffiness of the light side of the muzzle here with kind of just softening those shapes into the muzzle. Because I think I'm just going to want to keep that unpainted, completely unpainted on that side. I love how this kind of color is running down. So I'm going to add some more water and let that run down even more. And maybe something really fun will happen right there. Random colors. Lasani, that is so nice to say. Yeah, it is fun. I would say it's not so random colors though, because I have a limited palette. So I don't have to make as many color decisions as someone who maybe has a lot more color on their palette. But that's not knocking folks who have a lot of color on their palette by any means, because I know a lot of great, amazing artists who have just dozens of colors on their palettes, and they're able to pick and choose those colors in a really strategic way and make their paintings look awesome. But I just found that not having too much on my palette kind of helps me avoid mud and eliminates some of those decisions for me. Especially if I know that all the colors on my palette actually play really nice together. So it's kind of a nice thing. I'm a big proponent of a limited palette. But you also got to do what you are excited to do, because there's a lot of people out there that are just love colors and get really excited when they see that their palette has a lot of color on it. And it almost, makes them more excited to paint. So then if that's the case, then you should definitely do that. I added another layer of black to this nostril right here. All right, I think our eyes are still a little too wet to come in with any kind of the brown that it would need. So what I'm going to do now is we can do the first layer on the snout. So we have kind of goes all the way up here. So let's do the tongue. The tongue is always just so much fun to paint. So much to paint. Convenience colors, yes. Tonya, and I got your package today. Thank you. That was such a fun thing to get in the mail on my way home. That was the best. Thank you for that. Okay, we're going to come in with water. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that. Cool, because it's dirty water. So I'm painting with my dirty water, so hopefully you can see it. And I'm going to do a nice big pool. I've already painted where I shouldn't have painted. It's too late now. I'm going to figure it out as we go. Trying to get some cool reflections happening. And I love a good sharp reflection even on a tongue. So we just painted the happy dog, and that tongue had a really pretty sharp line. That's what I mean. I mean, like the lines are crisp and sharp in the tongue. Leave a margin at the top, and we can kind of finish that with our grainer brush. Doesn't have to be a crazy margin though. Let's see, we have a tooth, and then we have this dark area, and the tongue goes out right here. And then we can maybe extend that water down into the bottom. And all the way over to the tooth. And I'm going to leave it like that. So that's kind of where I ended up painting. I left a lot of white paper over here. So I'm going to come in with opera pink first. Nice heavy, heavy mix of opera pink. I'm really scrubbing it, trying to get a lot on my brush. And I'm going to let that move around. And I'm putting it everywhere I see pink, obviously, I guess. And everywhere I would honestly see orange. And you can even put it where you see purple, but I'm just going to come in with purple and connect these shapes here. Before I come in with purple, I think I'm going to come in with some yellow and get that pretty bright. I got to clean up my yellow here a little bit. And while I'm doing that, I haven't talked about the fundraiser. So this is video, YouTube just did this new thing. I think it's pretty new, where you can turn a video into a fundraiser. And then people can choose to donate right in the page while they're watching your video. I was like, this is such a cool way to raise money for things. So we did my first fundraiser for the Animal Humane Society, and we crushed our goal. I think we raised $53, and the goal was $20. It's just the best. It was like such a day maker. So the goal for this video is 100. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Anything is awesome. And it is for one of my absolute favorite nonprofits. There's a lot of people doing some cool stuff out there, that's for sure. But this is Feed My Starving Children. And I believe they have locations in like Texas and Illinois, a lot here in Minnesota, and they pack food. They call them manna packs, and send them all over the world to countries that need food, specifically for kids, to make sure that kids don't go hungry. And then they have volunteers pack all the meals. So you go into the sites and you pack the meals, and it's like soy and rice and veggies. They're actually really good. You get to taste what the meals taste like. Boy, I just ruined my pink. I made my pink purple. I'll get it back. And you pack the meals that they ended up shipping out, and then you pray over them so that they can reach their destination safely. And their record for getting the food where it needs to go is phenomenal. Like, because I'm sure that's a really hard piece of the puzzle, is making sure the food gets to where it needs to be. But I was blown away when I heard that stat. Like, okay, well, it's obviously the Lord is looking out for this food to make sure it goes where it needs to be. Okay, so I'm just adding in my purple, my pink. I have quite the pool of color. Look at all my brushes. Isn't that funny? I always think that's so funny. I'm going to lift out the pool. This is just too much. Even 300-pound paper, it still warps in a way that all the color and water runs to a certain space in your painting, which I think is actually kind of cool, because otherwise this wouldn't have happened in the nose, where all the water and color was running into the muzzle. And I know Carol Carter really leans into that, to the way that the paper buckles with her blooming. She's a really, really great watercolor artist. I'm going to come in with cobalt teal. You know, somebody else is doing that mix for their purple. So let's come in. We need a lot more pigment here though, because this needs to be way, 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 way darker. So I'm going to come in with cobalt teal to try and get this shadow shape figured out. And Comanche definitely has some purple on the tongue too, like actual markings. You can see those coming through. So I'm just trying to get the shadows and like the markings of the tongue in place. This looks so great. This is so fun. All right, we need more purple at the top. And I think I need to even come in with some neutral tint up here. We got to make that value sing a little bit better. So I'm going to grab a nice heavy mix of neutral tint. This is such a pool of color though. I'm just gonna, and I always hate lifting out the water because you lift out all that beautiful pigment too. But that's how it goes. All right, I'm gonna drop in my neutral tint right along the top. And maybe a little spread out a little bit here too. And we'll get this value in place where we want it to be. I don't want to completely get rid of our beautiful cobalt teal that we put in. I'm going to put in a little bit more of that. It's just, this is so pretty. This is granulating in like the coolest way. I'm going to put in even a little bit more purple. We are definitely getting a rainbow though. Our no fear of the rainbow, and that's what we had. Well, that's what we get. But anyway, so Feed My Starving Children is the nonprofit for the fundraiser for today's video, and they're just the coolest. Okay, so we used our grainer brush to blend that pool of water up into the muzzle and give it a hairy edge at the same time. Dropping in a little bit more neutral tint right at the top so it can kind of flow into those beautiful grainer brush edges that we just created. And it can give us the value that we need. I think it's very important that that's super dark so that we know that it's receding in a cool way. Look at that cool splatter right there. That one turned out nice. All right, trying to babysit in some ways our pretty snout area here. So I'm just scraping, kind of scraping whiskers. Basically, I'm just pulling that paint around, really. I'm scraping some of it off in areas that are almost dry a little bit. I'll keep my eye on that. Maybe we could get some scraping, some more successful scraping happening. But this is cool. Look at that blooming up there. That's because we dropped in water. I remember doing that and it worked. I just need to clean some of my brushes. I have no brush for water right now. They all have a color on them. Okay, I'm going to take my water only brush and I think I'm just going to touch some of these edges and let this pool of, you can still see it, okay, of water kind of run around into this lighter area on the tongue. That's all I want to do. I think I can soften those shapes down the road too. I think that'll work good. I'd love to see your paintings if you're painting this. Kind of tag me or something so I can see them. I think that'd be really fun. Okay, I moved that down, move it down here. I didn't refine my drawing at all. So I'm just going to erase a little bit of this line, pencil line. And let's see. All right, our eyes are dry. Oh, that's fun. Gotta grab a Kleenex here. I think our tongue looks so intensely psychedelic in a cool way. That's so fun. Thank you, everybody. Yeah, the tongue is just so fun. So let's see. I'm just catching up on everything. Yeah, no matter how. So Teresa's talking about saving white space. And yeah, it always yeah, you just have to be super intentional about it. And I would say don't be afraid to let the paint dry around your white spaces. So Teresa's running into just losing her white space on her paintings, just painting like the water runs into it or whatever it is. I would say when you're painting with water, just paint less, save some white spaces, and don't be afraid to let the paint around a white space dry, because you can glaze over it if it ends up being too white. You can soften the edges if the edges end up being too harsh. So hopefully that will get you in a good place. All right, I'm going to come in. Let's see, I got a lot going on here. I'm going to come in with our brown for the eyes. So let's move back to the eyes here. And we're going to put in a nice heavy mix of quinacridone. And I'm nervous because we have blue and black in our eyes. And both of those colors, when they mix with quinacridone, give you a nice green, which isn't always my intention. So let's see. I'm just going to put, sometimes if you blur your eyes, you can kind of see things. You get rid of some of that distracting detail. And you can get the detail you really actually need to see. So I put down a layer of that. I'm trying not to disturb the surrounding blue or black too much. And just going to see if I can kind of get some black. And then I have our purple. So I'm going to grab like a pinky bit of our purple. And that could be where the brown is really dark, so you can drop that in. So purple plays very nice with quinacridone. So we're going to just see if we can get a darker brown without losing it too much. Oh, look, another brush. This will be our water only brush. So that purple took over a little bit. So I'm just lifting out some of that. And then maybe we can drop in some water and let it push it around towards the edges a little bit more. But this is a challenging part, to not disturb the blue too much. Oops, we're almost there. We're almost there. All right. I love dropping in water, but it's always kind of scary when you're working in such a tight little area. Let's do the same thing with the other eye, and just keep an eye. Just babysit the other eye. Keep a little lookout. See what things are happening, in case you get an opportunity to make it even cooler. So let's do that. We have a little bit more of a brown space on this eye, more area to work in. So that's kind of fun. And a tiny, tiny bit up there. Drop in some water. Lifted quinacridone looks absolutely phenomenal. It stains the paper this gorgeous gold. So we're going to see if we can get a nice thin layer in the middle of that iris area, and then more concentrated towards the outside edge. So I'm not actually going to put any purple. I don't think I'm going to put any purple on that inside edge just yet. I'm running out of room to hold my brushes on this side. I'm going to drop in a little bit more of the quinacridone gold in that iris, but I'm just cleaning off my brush here quick. Drop in a little bit right on the edges. It's tricky because I want to have a nice heavy mix, but you also have to have enough water in your brush, otherwise you're just going to end up picking up the water you put down instead of laying down the paint you want. There we go. I think I got it. Okay, fun. I'm dropping a little bit more water over here and pick up a little bit too. Oh, it's coming together. It's looking more like an eye. All right, we'll see you next. We'll see you on the flip side, Tonya. It's so fun. Lisa, we're glad you're here. This is so fun. Hey, we're in a good place to, where were we in a good place to do here? I think finish the snout, or the muzzle, the little smile. Be a good way to put it. So let's do black outlines. We're on a roll with black outlines, giving us some information to fill in. And I think the body, so the head and the neck, is going to go really, really fast. So we are definitely over halfway. So I'm going to grab a heavy mix of my neutral tint. Make sure you have a water-only brush handy for when we soften things. I'm just making sure I have, so let's see, the white goes like this, and then it gets dark. Okay. So I'm painting in the middle. In other words, leaving myself a nice margin around edges that would be hairy. You don't need to leave as much of a margin around other areas of the gum that turn from this black to pink, because those can just kind of combine. All right, I'm gonna grab my water only brush, and I'm gonna let this black kind of chill around, touch the black that we just put in. I'm even gonna kind of paint with water in those pink areas. Now I have to be careful because the tongue is still wet, pretty wet. So we can get around that by just leaving ourselves the thinnest little white line of paper. A nice little margin of white paper if we can. Although this is kind of dry. It's just some areas. Although look at that, we touched at the top and the yellow's bleeding into the gums and it looks amazing. So we just gotta let go a little bit. I'm gonna touch it right there. Let that maneuver into here. All right, now I'm gonna flip back to my black. And I definitely have a huge pool of water at the base of the tongue, and I don't want to touch that. I'm really hoping I don't. That would just be very intense. Come in with my water only, and maybe we can soften out a little bit of this. We need to have our grainer brush handy too before this black dries. So I'm just going to kind of create that grainer brush edge along the top here. And it's kind of comes out to the lips here too. This white hair kind of intrudes on the gum line a little bit. But we already did it. We're done with that. That was easy. Come in and make these gum shapes. Gums are really fun to paint because they don't have to be very accurate and they have a lot of fun color in them. So I'm grabbing water with my actual black brush here. Actually, I'm going to switch. I'm going to switch to my purple brush. So I'm just picking up a lot of water. I do have a lot of purple on this brush too. And I'm going to keep painting. So we have a tooth right here on a nice smooth line where that tooth meets. There we go. And let's see, this shape is dark. So I'll paint with our purple up there. Trying not to touch the tongue because it's at that almost dry stage and we could probably get some kind of funky things happening if we did. Maybe we won't. Maybe it'd look really cool. But I'm not quite brave enough for that right now. All right, we have a nice big layer of teeth right here. And then the rest is just kind of mumbo jumbo over here. So I'm going to take my bigger water only brush and give myself some nice pool of color over here. And we can drop in our black on that in a hot minute. So there's so many layers right here. So we have, let's see, we have like this white that goes all the way here. So that means we'll leave a little bit of a margin and connect the rest of the gum line. Leave a little margin at the bottom though for our grainer brush. And now we can come in with some of Opera Pink, which I don't even have on my palette right now. I do have a little bit in my secondary well. So I have a secondary well that has blue and pink in it. So I can mix purple, and look at me, I'm not even using it. I'm using my other wells for purple. All right, let's just bop in a little bit of this Opera Pink. And I would say you don't have to grainer brush everywhere you see furry edges. You can have some nice solid lines of brush strokes too, some like hard edges from your brushes. And I think having both is what the key is to having some cool looking, to making it look like a painting is really what the important part is. I'm going to grab a little bit of yellow and put that right on the light side here and let that hang out. Add a little bit of water so that things mix a little bit in more fun ways. And then I can maybe clean out my pink well, drop in some purple over here. And look at it, touch the tongue, but I don't know, it's looking cool. Or at least I'm telling myself it's looking cool. Put some purple over here. And we need to put some black over there too, especially because it's the dark side. And a lot of black right here. So I'm just kind of trying to keep an eye on the values too. Getting those right. Let's grab our grainer brush. Boy, I'm working with a big pool, so it might be a little chunky strokes, but that's okay. Doesn't need to be perfect. I like that. I like that we're not doing the grainer brush absolutely everywhere, even though the hair might be everywhere. I really like this hard edge over here. So I think what I'm going to do instead of grainer brush is I'm just going to extend that pool of color a little bit right there. I just love this big smile. And the thing I'm trying to avoid is it looking too much like a clown, which can happen, I think, when you have really big smiley dogs like this. I'm trying to not, and I'm not sure exactly how you avoid it looking like a clown. So in my head, I'm trying to tell myself, don't make it look like a clown. But I don't know if I necessarily know exactly how to do that. Okay, I'm putting in a little bit of opera pink. And it's really blending right away. Looks a lot like purple. Okay, I don't know if I need any more water. I'm trying to think of if I need to blend those colors or not anymore. I just want a little bit of grainer brush right here, I think would look good. And there we go. That just needs some refining with some softening edges and some glazing. And we'll put some yellow in the teeth when we get to that point. Now, we were babysitting something, weren't we? Forgot what that was. Was it the tongue? I don't know. Let's just see what scraping looks like on the muzzle here. That pool of water is finally a little bit dry on the light side. That's cool. We got something happening there. Maybe we're babysitting the eyes. What I could do is just put, thank you, Rachel. That's a great question. My method for choosing the colors, I do, sometimes I get inspired by the reference photo. And I think, oh, I need to use green. And then that kind of informs my choices. If I'm working with a brown animal, I'll definitely be using purple to kind of have a buffer color there. And then sometimes I have fun and just try to play around and plan a palette. So the other day I did, I think, a black dog. And I thought, oh, this would be a good palette. So I planned the palette, and these were the colors I was going to choose. And then for this one, I wasn't afraid. And normally I try to avoid using all the colors in my palette, all 7 colors. Oh, I have 8 now because I have 2 blacks. But I try to not do all 7 or 8 colors because then it looks like a rainbow like it does right now. But I was thinking that would look kind of cool since it's supposed to be this kind of celebration puppy. But I do like, and I talked about this a little bit already, just having a limited palette so that I don't get overwhelmed with color and color choices as I'm painting. I'm just dropping in a little bit of opera pink to see if I can get some color resist happening in this area that's almost dry on the light side of the muzzle. And it's kind of pushing the color out in a cool way. All right, our eyes still need some more time. That would take forever to dry. I'm gonna just take out a little bit of this pool so that we can kind of so it actually dries today, and drop in a little bit more pigment over here. I want to think about value a little bit here too. So I'm going to drop in a little bit more black and maybe make some more lines so that we can tell they're like long gum line shapes. I do love this pigmented edge of neutral tint down here. That looks really cool. There. That looks more like a line of cute little gums. What a dog. This dog is the best smile ever. It's just so fun. All right, so we need more time on the eyes. I think we could just do the dark side. And what I was thinking with this painting would be really cool is if we could kind of do like, I can zoom out. I don't know if I can zoom out. This is hard to zoom out. Like a kind of almost a pen and ink style without actually using pen and ink. And hopefully I'll do a good job of explaining kind of what I mean as we paint this. I'm just kind of doing a little housekeeping, cleaning some brushes, and getting ready for doing the dark side of the painting. That'll be my yellow brush. I'm going to just adjust this because this is such a big painting. You're going to be able to want to see everything that's happening here. Trying to zoom out. see if my equipment cooperates. There we go. He kind of looks bald because his ears are back and I didn't put the birthday hat on. Got some Darth Vader vibes. Some bald Vader vibes. All right, let's see. Are we fully... Do we got what we need? Okay, that looks good. That's a good place for it. All right, I love starting with the dark side so that we can really underpaint the light side. And zoom out just a little bit on this guy. I'm going to take my really big brush. I'm painting so big, that's why I'm using this really big brush. And we'll start up on, let's see, there's the top. Okay, you can see that, great. And I'm going to take my really big 1-inch flat wash brush. Thank you, Sharon. This is so fun. Oh, I'm so glad I've helped you loosen up. That's great. So many things can happen. So many exciting things can happen when you just let watercolor be watery. It's just so exciting. Okay, so the dark side, definitely, it's kind of like, and it kind of extends into the forehead area of the light side a little bit. So I want you to be able to see that. Okay, so I'm painting where I see the darkest darks. And again, if you have trouble making sure you leave white space, just start small with this and leave yourself some margins too. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to go all the way next to the eye over here. And I am doing a big pool of water to give myself more time to work with this. So just a huge pool so you can really kind of see what's happening here. And I'm not going to paint the ear. I think I'm going to have that be a little bit of a separate shape. But I'm trying to leave myself a little bit of a margin. I'm going to kind of go over the lip area a little bit. And I'm going to try to extend it into the body. So maybe we can achieve this a cute, long, congruent little shape here. So big pools of water. I just need time. I need more time. All right. So now I'm kind of moving. The water is pooling and moving out towards the edges. So I'm just telling the water it can kind of go back into the main area of the shapes. That looks really good. And I'm going to take my second biggest brush here. It's a 3/4 inch. And I'm going to start with what am I going to start with? It's brindle. So that makes me think purple is going to be a good idea. I'm definitely going to do the gold part last because my quinacridone gold just goes crazy. it's just nuts. I'm gonna start with my neutral tint. So I'm gonna grab a nice heavy mix of neutral tint and only put that where you see the absolute very, very, very darkest darks. So again, I don't have much else to say. I'm just putting it where the darkest darks are. And I'm not going to quite all the way to the edges of the water. I'm just giving it a chance to spread around itself as it wants to. So I'm going to take that neutral tint, I'm going to bring it all the way into the shapes that we painted down here too, because these are supposed to be really dark. Now, before we move on to our next color, I'm going to take a grainer brush, and this is a 3/4 inch filbert. It's just bigger. The size, I found the shape of those bristles, like the filbert shape, isn't quite as important as I just wanted to pick my bigger one here. So I'm just getting some fluffy edges here before we move on. And I'm going to do some grainer brush where the darkest dark meets the muzzle too. But I don't need to go too crazy. It's nice to just suggest that a little bit. So I'm going to actually take my same big wash brush. I'm going to clean it off because we're going to go ahead and get our next color. And I'm going to get cobalt teal because this is our shadow color. So this is what we would do next. Typically the shadow color and the highlight color are usually like the midtones on both sides. So I usually put it right next to the darkest dark, which is what we just painted. I'm going to put some over here too. And then maybe more of a watery mix on the edges over here. And then a watery abstract kind of way of mixing it down towards the bottom. And I'll anchor it to the page a little bit too. So I'm just extending those brushstroke shapes all the way to the bottom of the paper. That looks really cool. It's definitely blending in really cool ways. So I'm trying to think, if we put gold down now, we would really get green. Which I'm not afraid of green either, especially because this is a rainbow. So really we can't go wrong. And honestly, the reference photo almost looks a little green. So maybe I'm just trying to convince myself that all will be well. Okay, I'm just seeing if I can put some purple right next to some of these edges. And then maybe we could put in a little bit of gold to get some brindle happening. I'm almost just putting like little stripes of purple. I want to really emphasize these wrinkles, like these little smiley edges happening. I might have to lift some of that out, get those wrinkles back. I'll keep my eye on that. There we go. Extended that cheek a little bit. Not the Darth Vader vibes, I know, right? Like the unmasked, the unhelmeted Darth Vader. That's what evil does to a soul. Oh, that was a bad joke. Okay. All right. I'm going to take, what am I doing right now? I'm just going to see. I don't want to fuss with it too much because some really cool things are happening. So I'm just going to play around with grainer brush edges and details in some of these areas. I love that little eyebrow, so you can definitely see how I kept that eyebrow shape. Oops, you can't see that. You definitely can see that you can't see what I'm doing. But this little eyebrow shape right here, I think contributes to his expression, so I wanted to really make sure I kept that in there. And kind of really merging this cheek into his cheek into his cheek, his white cheek into his dark cheek. I'm going to throw in a little bit of water here. Actually, I'm going to lift up. There's a big pool right here. And I'm going to throw in some water. And maybe it'll kind of drift out into this area a little bit. And move around. So we're really going to just keep an eye on this for a hot second. And I'm just kind of thinking about the edges of where the colors are meeting. And maybe grainer brush this a little bit too. So we can tell that this is part of the light side now. I like that kind of smoother shape up there though. We'll leave that like that. We can glaze these or just soften them as we go down the road. Maybe lift a little bit of this smile wrinkle. Still very wet though, so color's really coming back into that line. There we go. That looks better. Let's see. A little bit more grainer brush right there. I'm just debating if it's time to add the gold. And it's freaking me out. All right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to add the gold where we have purple or next to purple. We're going to see. I don't know. I'm thinking green could look kind of cool. So we're going to see what it looks like for real. I'm not sure. I'm very nervous. Okay. Right next to the purple. Nice heavy mix. Right next to the purple over here. Just trying to suggest and show our wonderful art admirers that there is brindle in his fur. You can see it's really taking over. It doesn't take a lot. Grainer brush, a little bit. It's actually doing color resist, which is so cool. It looks so cool. All right, I'm gonna grab a little bit of, what colors do I got here? Pink. And maybe we can get that right next to the gold we put in and try to help it avoid green. I'm not sure. You know, we might just have to surrender a little bit. We weren't afraid of the rainbow, and I think the rainbow is what we're going to get. All right, I love, 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 though, the color resist that's happening. So I'm coming in with another layer of this gold so that I can really get that. I'm going to actually splatter some of this gold down into here, and that's color resisting. I like the splatter a lot. I don't want to do too much. I don't want to go too crazy. Quinacridone gold is like the best color for color resist. So it's just doing some really cool stuff. So I'm splattering kind of where we put those little bits of quinacridone. And I think we did it. I love, this is an ambitious request, but I sure would love to get water resist if we can time it right. I need a water only brush. What colors I have? I think this is gold. Okay. I have 2 golds. I'm going to clean one off here. Just for water only. And I really want this smile, so you can see that I've a couple times tried to get this smile to come back. I'm dropping in water, hoping that this water will push away the pigment and give us some like almost like a blooming smile here. And I think that worked. I think that was a good idea. See, maybe I can get a little bit of that right here too. Maybe it'll push out and get some blooming here too. Maybe. It's worth trying, especially on the body, trying things like this because the body's supposed to be abstract anyway. But I was really hoping for water resist with my grainer brush. So I'm just water only. It's a bladed level of water. And I'm just seeing if I can kind of get that fur pattern of short hair with water. So I'm really just testing to see if I'm getting it anywhere. And I feel like maybe it'd be more successful where we put the quinacridone because for some reason, whenever I drop quinacridone into a mix of color, it dries it out. It like makes it dry faster. It like eats up all the water and then it's dry. Which means that these might be the areas that are almost dry more so than the other areas. I'm getting some water resist. Ooh, yay. And we only need some because we don't want to put it everywhere because then all of a sudden it wouldn't be interesting anymore anyway. So this is great. Now I would say if you were working smaller than me, is putting all these techniques in a small area is going to be very challenging. And that's why I work big, because it's very hard to do all this stuff in a small space. I don't have a lot of success with it myself. I'll do birds kind of small just because, I don't know, maybe because birds are small and the birds have a big eye, so I can kind of still get the expression I want. This is so cool. It's just fun to look at, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? A lot of things going on. I'm kind of lifting a little bit here too. See if I can get this shape to merge together a little bit over here. But I was getting a little bit of water resist. So it's kind of just pushing the pigment around to get that fur pattern, that short hair fur pattern. And I think this is just going to dry in really cool ways. I'm excited to see what it looks like when it is dry, because it's going to look different than it does now. There's a lot happening in this area we painted with water. I kind of like the green. It almost brightened it up in a way. That looks really cool. And this is really cool. I think we timed that, putting that water right there perfectly to get that blooming. I'm going to put some more up here. I'm going to see too, I still have my quinacridone. I'm going to see if maybe I can get a little bit more color resist down here. And I even splattering on the edges of the paper. Oh, fun. Very psychedelic. We are using all of the colors today. And it looks so cool. All right, let's do that ear because that sounds really fun. I'm going to take my flat brush. I'm just going to grab black. Heavy mix, kind of on a swiped brush, so my brush isn't too wet. Going right onto dry paper, I'm leaving a little bit of a white. I have a little too much water. I need a little bit less paint and water on my brush here. I'm just kind of doing invisible brush strokes for that ear. And then maybe I'll come in with my purple and connect those two little shapes. There we go. Now it has a cute little ear. That's all it needs for the ear. And we can move on to the light side. And it's still in that, they call it the ugly stage, where it's just a lot of kind of flat looking color. And I think we were past the ugly stage where it's starting to look good, but it's also still kind of in that ugly stage where we just need to basically refine the edges, because we just have a lot of sharp white shapes everywhere. So some glazing and some softening of the edges, and then adding whiskers. A little bit of that is going to go a really, really long way. Okay, so now we are on to the light side. I have so much going on. This is a lot. This is too much. Oh, that's a fun comment. Oh, good. I'm glad you learned a lot. I'm glad you had so much fun with this. Yes, the paper is such a big part of the equation when you're painting. And if you are using different paints, they will behave differently. But pit bulls are great. Oh, they are really cute, good looking, big boxy faces. Oh, I just love that. The puppy we just got does not have a boxy face, but he is very cute. I'll get a boxy face dog someday. I really like those boxy faces. All right. And I'm just trying to think to myself what I'm going to do here. I'm going to grab my dirty water so you can see where I'm going. I am going to paint with water first, but we're doing a lot less. I'm going to connect. This shape is still wet. I'm just going to kind of connect it. All right, let's see. All right, painting with water. Oh, this is pretty dark. I'm just going to erase some of these. There we go. And paint with water on the very darkest areas. I'm going to paint the ear. And then a little bit around here. And then we'll kind of connect. Oh, good, you can kind of see that. Connect a little bit of this down here too. And we're doing a lot of suggesting. All right, highlight color. I was thinking yellow, so we'll glaze that at the end. So yellow plays nice with pink. I'm going to go ahead and start with my pink. And do some pink areas here. I'm going to grab my bigger grainer brush and dip it into my purple. Let's make a heavy mix of purple on here. And we'll do some grainer brush details. And I want to have a water only brush handy for softening some of these grainer brush edges. Kind of adding water too, because then maybe we could push this purple out and create some pigmented edges. That could look really, really cool. So I'm just trying to think, like, what information do I absolutely need to convey the shape of the head? And that's about it. With color too, because we want to employ fun color on this side of the face. And I'm just kind of finishing up a little bit of the detail. So I'm really kind of just borrowing some of this pigment to give myself some information for other parts of the painting here. I'm going to grab my flat brush and just kind of finagle some of these edges too. It's got my water is very dirty, so it looks black kind of where I paint with water now, but that kind of looks neat because there's a lot of black on this dog. I love it. I love it. It's just all like this big head. That's so cool. Krista, that's a good comment. Yes, size of the paper really, really affects, I've found how much technique. Wow, look at that. Clearly was not babysitting this down here. The tongue and the gums are as one now. And it bloomed like crazy. We'll glaze over that when we get the chance. But yes, the size you're working in. So if you're not getting what you want to be getting, it could very well be the size of your paper or the paper itself or the paint you're using. I have a lot of splatter, but I'm kind of leaving it there. All right, where's my nice big grainer brush? Has a lot of pink on it right now. I'm going to put some water on that. I think we're past the point of water resist, but I'm just checking. Ooh, I love the water resistant down here though. That looks really cool. I don't know if I like that bloom. I'm gonna get rid of that one. You didn't see it, but I just lifted out some of this up here. It was drying in kind of a weird way I didn't care for. All right, we need I'm gonna take my grainer brush, my littler one. I'm gonna get some straight up black. And I'm just gonna play around with a little bit of detail because we might need a little bit of precision around here. We don't want to give a lot away, but we do need to give the viewers something. A little bit of something to look at. And I'm borrowing color and kind of just softening in some pigment into this white part of the muzzle. It's a lot of pooling right here too. Let's see, do we have enough information where we want information? I'm gonna grab some more black. Give myself another layer where it needs to be really, really black. And I might need to soften that in a little bit. Oh man, put in a lot of water there. All right. Oh, fun. It's really coming together. That is so cool. Oh my gosh, I'm having too much fun. I'm gonna take my flat brush and just kind of borrow some color from this dark part of the muzzle and scrub it into the white shape. Kind of create little illusions of those, of where the whiskers might be coming from. Just give that white shape a little bit of shape. Give the shape some shape. And I'm going to do that kind of in other areas too, almost just to soften it. Soften the two edges together where it's a little intense. So you can kind of go around your whole painting if you want and just take a look at your edges. And see what needs to be softer. Sometimes I just do a quick little layer of water and pull color into it. Let's see, there's white here, so I'm just going to soften this into here too. And we definitely need to soften this area as well. I love that he looks bald. He looks so bald, and it's my favorite thing ever. That is so cool. Oh, Comanche, you are so cute. Let's glaze with yellow while we're here, because the softening of the edges is probably so boring to watch. And you get the idea of doing that. So I just think glazing is really fun to watch. So I'm going to do that first. Have your water only brush handy, preferably in some clean water because we're doing yellow. And oh man, mistakes were made right away. My pretty yellow is ruined. I'm going to grab that with a Kleenex right off the bat. All right, we will let that dry. Come back and glaze that little section. It did not want to play nice. And we're starting on the light side. This beautiful highlight of yellow. And you can see too how I'm kind of going right next to the color I already put down. We'll glaze everywhere where you just need that little pop, as if the sun's shining on his face. And I love some visible brush strokes when you're glazing. I just think that looks so cool and so much like a painting that's really what I'm going for when I do that. And it's tempting. I always get very tempted to continually look at the reference photo even when I'm glazing. And I try to remind myself to just take a deep breath, look at the painting. Where does this yellow improve the painting? And always putting it kind of the most color by your eyes, by the features that you want your viewers to look at, is never a bad idea. And once you get over how scary glazing is initially, you'll likely fall in love with it and want to kind of glaze everywhere. And you don't want to do that. So if you can kind of manage to show a little restraint when you're glazing, it'll be very good. And you can always tell yourself, hey, I can always glaze more. And it's true. You can always glaze more. So just take a hot step back from your art and don't glaze too much. And I always want to glaze a little tiny bit of the highlight color into the shadow side, maybe where we're seeing a little bit of that reflectedness happen over there. So the tricky part is, where is that happening? Where are we seeing some of this pretty yellow? I so want to put more right here. Is it dry enough? There we go. That helped. I really needed it right there, I think. Okay, we're getting close to we're good with glazing. All right, but the tongue needs some of this too. So I'm gonna glaze a little layer on the tongue here. And I'm even gonna reach for my pink with that same brush and glaze in a little bit of color here. And the cool thing too with rough textured paper, if you can kind of catch just the top level of that rough surface on a tongue, it can look like a tongue in a really cool way. So we're getting a little bit of that. Oh wait, I don't need that right now. Ooh, a little bit of that yellow. Really, really pretty on the tongue. Just making it come to life. Oh, fun. Oh, very, very fun. We're getting some orange too from adding that yellow here. That looks so cool. And then you can see too just how the lighting is and how we edited the photo. Some of the teeth are yellow over here too. And some of the gums. But that's something you can kind of refine too. So that looks really good in terms of yellow. And glazing is so fast too. That is so cool. Oh, Nicole, that is so sweet to say. That's your babysitter. That's funny, Michelle. I am too. I miss it a lot. I miss opportunities. But you don't have to catch them all, and I wouldn't stress about it. You don't have to catch everything. Okay, I have my pink now. So I have the same brush, loaded it with pink, and we're gonna glaze pink now. So we're gonna have to put pink. I feel like the gums need a lot of this pretty pink. And I want to have my water only brush handy here too. And I can soften some of this glazing colors and lift surrounding colors too. All right, grabbing some more pink. I'm even kind of glazing over dark areas, and it does make a difference. It does add a layer of color. It does do something. Oops, there it is. There it is. Oh, broke my brain in a good way. Broke my brain. Oh, maybe that's what you need. You gotta get a little bit turned around before you can kind of get back into things. All right, where else do we need pink? Oh, I'm losing my clean pink. This is just so cool. I don't know if I want to glaze that. I really like some of the accidental blooming we got. And so many things that end up happening in my art that become my favorite parts of a painting happened kind of by accident. Just by saying, okay, let go, let the paint mix around on a paper with water and see what happens. And I just, almost every time, it's a good thing, the thing that ends up happening. Okay. Pink. I still have pink on my brush. I'm just going to glaze a little bit more with that pink, pretty pink. Putting some more pink in other areas. Like I said, it's just really pretty to concentrate color by the eye too. So that looks really nice. And I think our nose needs some more pink. So I'm going to put that on the nose too. That looks so cool. How fun is that? And I need to show some restraint, and it's hard to do. I'm struggling. I want to put this pink everywhere. Oh, wow. What a happy dog. I'm just happy because this dog looks happy. I mean, that's always, oh, that's just what you want. I love that so much. All right, maybe I can grab a watery purple and try to glaze some of this stuff that's a little bit darker. And maybe not even too watery. A little bit of darker purple can look kind of cool. And you could kind of fix some green with a pinky purple too if your green got a little out of hand, more than you would have liked. All right, I'm at the point where I think I just need to step back a little bit. Let's see, this is more dark. I'm gonna glaze this with purple. There we go. I think that was a good idea. Get it a little bit faded in there. Oh, fun. All right, I think it's just a matter of softening all these white shapes. I'm not probably going to do all of those on camera, but I definitely think you just need to do that in the eyes. Maybe before we do that, since I feel like I spent 2 hours, so we were almost halfway when I thought we were halfway. I love this ink pen. I just love it, love it, love it for combining it with your watercolors, and especially for black whiskers. So I don't know if I even have to zoom in too much, but it will be able to be softened before it dries. So you can, I like to kind of start with the side of it. And I never do too many whiskers. They really command a lot of attention. So we don't need to go crazy. And then we can go on the dark side and make the dark side ones a little bit thicker. So more like the tip of the pen instead of the side of it. And I like to kind of soften the beginning of the whisker where it kind of meets the muzzle. Make it just look like it's more part of the fur a little bit better. And he's got these cute little, like little side whiskery things too. I love how dogs have those. And a little bit of whiskery shapes up there too. Oh, you didn't even see that. Boop. I just put some ink pen up here too. Softening that in. Maybe soften this in a little bit. There we go. And he's got the cutest little like whiskeries right there too. So you can do more of that too, because you want to get those whiskers add a lot of depth. I think make it look more 3D, like more layers, which is nice. But you just don't want to overdo it. You don't have to do too much. I'm going to show you just a little bit of what we can do to soften the shapes in the eyes. We have a donation. Thank you. Yay, it worked. That's so cool. That was so cool. We got a big pool over there. We could glaze too with cobalt teal, which we didn't do, but we could do. I mean, the possibilities today. There's so many possibilities. All right, I'm just gonna soften. So I have a water only brush, and I'm kind of giving my reflections softer edges, but not completely every single edge of the reflection needs to be super soft. I think what I could do is zoom in so you guys can see what I'm doing a little bit better here. There we go. See what's happening on the eyes. And I'm going to borrow a little of this pretty cobalt teal and move it around. All right, we can grab a little ultramarine. I'm just going to pop a little ultramarine in here. And make some of that eye a little bit darker. Yeah. It looks a little wonky still. Not too bad. I'm going to grab some purple actually and just refine, make that iris area a little bit more dark, a little bit more in shadow like it should be. There, I think that really helped. Just a little layer of that. And I think a layer of maybe black where it should be black could be really helpful too. So I just have a size 2, a really thin brush. And I'm going to see if I can kind of get some of that really dark black back. Oh, fun. Oh, Comanche, you are so cute. All right. I feel like we need to almost put a little bit more cobalt teal in there. I'm going to grab kind of a watery mix of that. Which reflection? There's just a lot of reflections. I think we have too much. I'm going to put cobalt teal in here. Oh, you didn't see that, but that helped a lot. Just kind of getting rid of a harsher reflection and replacing it with this cobalt. That looks a lot better. All right, I need to come back to that eye because I feel like it's good enough for now. And then we can do the same thing over here with this eye too. Just kind of I'm going to start with purple, I think. So I'm going to grab a nice heavy mix of purple. Yes, ready to celebrate. Hi, great. That's great. My frog was a little special in the end. Oh my gosh, this is so funny. You guys are awesome. Everybody paints special paintings. I totally know what you mean. It's so hard to, I think, on paintings when you have a big, big vision in your head for how you want the painting to look, and then it just something else entirely happens and you don't know how did that happen, which can be really frustrating actually and unfortunate. All right, I'm grabbing some purple, kind of putting it where I see green almost in this eye. And again, we have a lot of reflectum. I'm going to put purple up in this reflection. Ooh, that looks way better. Purple, because that I think was kind of a reflected area in the iris. And so I thought, well, maybe that would make more sense. And I'm bringing a little bit of color into this reflection. And a little bit of water. And then I'm going to soften this reflection too. So I'm just borrowing color. And I'm going to soften this, bring in some of that pretty cobalt teal that's just hanging out right there. I can soften this a little bit too. Oh, fun. I need it a little bit darker. So I'm going to grab a little bit more of that purple, a heavier mix, and make it darker. There, I like that better. That was better. It almost needs a little bit of a lifting right here. Maybe like I put too much black. See now, but now I'm borderline just going to make it muddy. I don't know if I can lift out that black. I think I'm going to leave it. I'll put a little bit more of that purple back there. Okay. Do we love it? Oh my gosh! We have 2 more donations. Yes! This is so cool. Thank you. Wow. Oh, that's just, I'm as happy as this dog. As Comanche is. All right, we could do, I'm gonna keep just saying that. You could just do a little bit of splatter to finish this off. And we did some intentional. I've done quite a bit of unintentional splatter, but that's just my fault. You could do a little bit more black too, to do another layer. Another layer of black in general wouldn't be a bad idea to add some depth to the nose or the eyes. But gosh, this looks awesome. Toothbrush splatter. We were talking about splatter. Toothbrush splatter can be so fun. And so I just have a dedicated toothbrush that I only use black splatter with. And then I kind of have my palette help keep the painting the part of the painting I don't want. But then you're going to get your palette dirty. So it's all just part of the fun. But I just love a good toothbrush splatter. And I often do more than I should. That's enough. But I just love that contrast, that really dark black splatter too. I think is looking really cool. I'm going to put a little bit of that over here in kind of bigger chunks. And I do often do kind of intentional splatter too, where I actually put the splatter down myself. So I just like that variation in splatter size. if we can get it. Oh my gosh. The yellow. I think the yellow was very much the success of the day with this painting. So tons of color. So that's how you get a rainbow, is when you use all your colors, which we use all of them except for buff titanium. So we didn't do buff titanium though, which would have made it. That wouldn't have been the vibe I was going for. Buff titanium would have made it a little too natural color, a little too opaque. That's pretty good. I just wanted you to be able to see the whole thing. It's so big. I mean, look at how it just kind of eats up almost my full size sheet of paper. But happy puppy. What a happy dog. This was so fun. I just want to thank you so much for donating. Thank you for being here. Thank you for just painting along with me and being part of my 10,000 artists here on YouTube, which is, I can't. It's just too exciting. It's too good. So that's it. You can still fundraise. The fundraiser is going to continue. You can still donate and you can still get in on the giveaways. Just drop a comment. That's it for today. And I hope you got your November calendar. We talked about that a little bit at the beginning. The November calendar was emailed to all of you this morning. If you're not on my email list, the November calendar will continue to be in the footer of every email I send out this month. So you can get on my email list at any time at paint333.com to get that calendar. And you'll also get my supply list and you'll get notifications when I drop new videos. Tons of fun videos coming out this month. And then, of course, you can go the extra mile if you're a super overachiever and join the membership. And you get 2 dedicated paint-alongs every month. So if you have the time and the desire to really go all in on watercolor, that would be the option for you. Otherwise, I'm just so excited that you're all here. You can keep just having all this free content. We got a lot of it, and I'm going to keep giving you a lot of it out. And I'm just excited. If you can't tell. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for celebrating with me today. What a blast. What a blast.